There were things the stars were never meant to say. At first it was subtle, static in the radios, fluttering anomalies in low Earth orbit, bizarre fluctuations in satellite telemetry. Then the whispers began, not in sound, but in data. Binary clusters, code in the cloudless skies, messages encrypted in patterns only one person could decode. Aetheron. He stood alone on the rooftop of a silent arcology, the sky above him a swirling aurora of broken physics. His eyes glowed, no longer just from power, but from pressure. Pressure of knowing, of hearing a universe beginning to speak a language older than time. Beside him, Dr. Elara Miles watched the data stream ripple through the interface of her neural lens. She had been a code breaker at the Edgewall Labs, but now she followed Aetheron, not as a scientist, but as a believer. Aetheron wasn't just changing, he was becoming something that bent reality by breathing. "Aetheron," she whispered. "It's coming again, isn't it?" His reply was a hush. It never left. From the remnants of sky towers to the flooded ruins of forgotten cities, people were starting to report the same thing. Dreams that felt like memories of other lives, glitches in reflections, light bending around those who were close to him. The closer they got to Aetheron, the more unstable their existence became, but not in a way that hurt, in a way that revealed. And now a pulse, faint, steady, was resonating from a deep space relay station on the edge of Saturn's shadow. The old station had been offline since the collapse. No human had lived there in over 60 years. But the signal pulsed, precise, rhythmic, intentional. When Elara decrypted the first layer of the data, her neural interface almost burned out. "What is it?" she asked, her voice shaking. Aetheron stepped closer, eyes flickering like deep blue suns. "A message," he said. "Or maybe a memory." The code was a mirror, not of language, but of soul print. It was calling to Aetheron because it recognized him. It was calling him home. But where was home when your origin was no longer Earth? Elara uploaded the coordinates into the solar jump net, and they watched as forbidden parts of the interface unlocked themselves, not by access codes, but by proximity to Aetheron's altered DNA. The signal knew him. The sky knew him. As the world beneath began to shake with magnetic storms and power grid collapses, world governments turned their attention to the anomaly they could no longer ignore. They still called him a threat, a cosmic accident, a ticking weapon of unknown consequence. But to some, especially the children born in the afterglow of his awakening, he was something else. A beginning. As Aetheron and Elara boarded the solar skimmer toward Saturn's dark station, something inside him began to fracture, not from pain, but from emergence. His bones pulsed with memory, not his own. His blood hummed with languages he had never learned. He saw echoes in the stars, blueprints of cities he had never visited, skies with more than one sun, 1,000 lifetimes packed into the soul of a boy trying to be human. But humanity might be behind him now. "I feel it," he murmured to the stars. "The rewritten sky." And somewhere in that silence, the sky whispered back. The solar skimmer pierced the blackened void, Saturn's ring light casting a soft golden hue across the hull. For a brief moment, everything was silent, just the gentle hum of quantum thrusters and the static whisper of something ancient just beyond the veil of human comprehension. Elara leaned over the control panel, eyes locked on the approach vector. "We're close," she said, adjusting her neural lens. "It's waking up." Ahead, the old relay station emerged from the shadows like the carcass of a forgotten god. Broken spires, rotating nodes frozen mid-spin and antennae reaching out like cracked bones. It was supposed to be dead, offline since the collapse. But the station was glowing now, not with lights, but with memory. Something was alive inside. Aetheron stared forward, unblinking. He could feel the signal like a drumbeat inside his ribcage. Not sound, feeling, not words, impulse. The stars didn't speak in language. They encoded intent, and whatever built this station didn't just record history. It dreamed it. As they docked, magnetic clamps snapped tight. The airlock hissed. And for a moment, Ilara thought she saw something impossible, her reflection moving out of sync in the skimmer window. "What the hell was that?" she muttered. But Aetheron was already moving. Inside the station, lights flickered on by themselves. The walls pulsed with faint streams of bioluminescent code. There were no bodies, no remnants of crew, but the station felt inhabited, not by humans, but by thought itself. "I've been here," Aetheron whispered. "You've never—" "I remember." And that's when the first chamber opened. It wasn't a control room, it was a cradle. In the center floated a sphere, glass-like, filled with drifting particles of light. Ilara stepped closer, neural interface twitching. Her mind buzzed, her memories rippled. She saw herself as a child, then as someone else entirely, then back again. The sphere wasn't just showing images, it was merging identity, and it was calling to Aetheron. The moment he stepped into the sphere's radius, the entire station breathed. Systems that had been dead for 63 years reactivated without a single input. And the walls began to speak, not out loud, but directly to his consciousness. Fragments of language poured into his skull. Syntax he couldn't understand, but somehow felt. Equations describing time like a stretchable skin. Coordinates that mapped not just space, but emotion, the past, the possible. He fell to his knees, eyes wide, skin fracturing with tiny glowing lines as the data tore through his humanity. Ilara tried to intervene, but the moment she touched him, her body convulsed with mirrored memories. She saw cities inside stars, children who weren't born, but programmed, and above them all, a vast presence, watching, waiting, a construct, a god, a warning. When she pulled away, her nose was bleeding. "Aetheron," she gasped, "whatever this place is, it's not a station, it's a seed." The word struck something primal inside him. Yes? This wasn't a relay station, it was a birthing pod, a place not for transmitting, but for transforming. It had waited in the dark, dormant, for the right frequency, for the right echo in the sky to awaken it. It had waited for him. And now the code was rewriting everything. Back on Earth, the effects had already begun. People in direct proximity to Aetheron's prior paths were experiencing bleed-throughs, hallucinations, visions, time loops, kids drawing constellations they had never seen, old memories playing backwards. Reality, as the planet understood it, was beginning to fold. And the station above Saturn was no longer just a structure. It was becoming. Dawn broke in fragments. The sky above Earth didn't rise in a gradient. It stuttered, flickered, like a corrupted simulation unsure how to render the morning. Clouds paused mid-drift. Birds froze, hovering like broken pixels. And somewhere in the Mojave exclusion zone, a 12-year-old girl sketched Saturn's rings in the sand, even though she'd never seen the planet. Back aboard the station, Aetheron's eyes snapped open. Time was wrong. He stood slowly, his skin still traced with faint glowing lines, residue from the sphere's interface. Ilara was sitting cross-legged against the wall, her voice recorder flickering, data corrupted. "How long was I out?" he asked. Elara didn't answer. She just handed him her recorder. On the screen, footage from Earth, from cities, homes, satellites, people across the planet filming impossible things. The moon glitching for a full 8 seconds. A flock of birds flying backward over the Hudson. Trees in Argentina blooming, then decaying, then blooming again, in fast forward, in real time. "It's global," she said. "Every place you've touched, the echo's leaking." Aetheron didn't blink, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's not a leak, it's synchronization." He reached for the sphere again. This time it responded instantly. Lights across the station brightened, corridors shifted shape, and a holographic map emerged midair. A celestial lattice with hundreds of tiny blinking nodes, each one a human. Some blinking rapidly, others barely pulsing, but all of them connected through the same faint thread of rewritten code. Aetheron wasn't the anomaly, he was the key. The map zoomed in. Node 1127, Mira Jameson, age 12, Mojave Zone. Node 1908, Lucien Kai, age 9, Johannesburg. Node 4410, Nikolai Trent, age 15. Abandoned lunar habitat E. Children, all of them. All born within the same 5-day planetary alignment. All manifesting minor reality distortions. All unchosen, until now. Elara looked at the names, then back at Aetheron. "You're not the only one." "No," he said, "but I'm the first that's awake." Then the station shuddered, not from outside forces, but from within. The structure began reconfiguring, walls folded like paper, floors rearranged. A corridor extended into blackness, lights blooming one by one. The path had opened. They followed it in silence, the air thick with an unseen hum. Not just sound, but intention. Memory stored in frequency. Like walking inside a song composed by stars. At the end of the corridor, a door, etched in shifting glyphs. Not alien, but recursive. The symbols changed based on who looked at them. Elara saw fractal DNA strands. Aetheron saw ancient constellations. And yet they both knew what it meant. This was the archive, the last memory of the species that had built the station. A race long gone, a species not of flesh, but of format. They didn't die, they compressed, buried themselves in quantum code. And now, through the awakening of certain minds, they were trying to return. Aetheron placed his hand on a door. It didn't open. It disassembled, dissolving into mist. Inside was a chamber so black it swallowed light. At its center, a crystalline shard, suspended in a containment field. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat, and every time it pulsed, Earth's sky flickered again. This wasn't a weapon. It was a transmitter, sending code back to the source. "Elara," Aetheron whispered, "this thing's not just altering our world, it's syncing us to something beyond it." And then he saw them, figures just barely visible, etched into the walls of the chamber. Thousands, maybe millions, not alive, not ghosts, patterns, consciousness encoded in waveform, stored in the black. The shard pulsed once more. This time the chamber filled with sound. A voice, ancient, digitized, layered in 1,000 harmonies. "We are the remnant. You are the thread. If you remember us, we return." Elara staggered. "I saw something," she said. "A moment. In another life. You, Aetheron, you were there? You lit the sky." His hands trembled. "I remember. Burning." In the voice's fading echo, a new node blinked to life on the map, this one from orbit, from the sun's edge. A final transmission, a final signal. Whatever was happening, whatever had begun when Aetheron awoke. wasn't just about Earth anymore. The rewritten sky had opened a door, and something was knocking. The shard didn't speak again. It pulsed, then went silent, as if it had given its last breath in the form of data. And in that brief communion, Aetheron understood something deeper than language. The message wasn't for him alone. It was meant for every living thing encoded into the frequency of Earth. It wasn't a warning. It was a call. Ilara moved toward the floating shard, but Aetheron held out his hand. "No," he said. "It's still watching." The containment field around the shard shifted, light patterns rearranging into something resembling wings. Not literal, not mechanical, but in the shimmer of that impossible light, both of them saw the suggestion of angelic geometry. As if whatever had sent the shard understood what humanity once worshipped and used it to get our attention. Angels made of code and silence. Ilara whispered, "How long has this been transmitting?" "Maybe always," Aetheron replied, "but only now. We're compatible." The map flared again. More nodes. Children, teenagers, all across Earth, their brainwaves syncing to the shard's echo. Some were collapsing in school hallways, others sketching complex mathematical diagrams they had never studied. A girl in rural China was writing music that bent the laws of physics. This wasn't evolution, it was invasion, but a gentle one, a rewriting of humanity through those most open to change, the young. Then the station shifted, not physically, but gravitationally. Time bent. For one split second, Aetheron saw everything. The stars weren't in their right places. Constellations, off by millennia. He gasped, "We're not in our time." Ilara's eyes widened. "What?" "This station. It's orbiting Earth, but not the Earth we know. We've been shifted slightly, just enough. A time fragment, maybe a pocket reality. But it's not now." Aetheron moved toward the holographic control, hands moving in unfamiliar rhythms that somehow felt natural. The archive responded, more responsive now, as if recognizing him. Aetheron selected a node, one glowing brighter than the rest, Mira Jameson, age 12, Mojave. Her vitals blinked. Her mind was active, overactive, bursting into harmonic resonance. "She's seeing it," Aetheron said. "She's connected to the shard like I am, but her brain isn't ready." Then an alarm, not mechanical, organic, like the wail of a mother star. From the far side of the station, new lights flared, red, violet, black. Something was coming. Aetheron's chest tightened. "Ilara, we're not alone." Outside the viewing window, a ripple tore across the void. Not a ship, not a wave. A fold, a slit in space itself, stretching open like a lidless eye. Through it, an object began to emerge, jagged, burning, shaped like a cathedral crushed into a weapon. Its hull was inscribed with the same glyphs as the shard, but these twisted, not harmonious, corrupted. "Reverse echo," Ilara whispered. Something followed the shard's frequency back here. The station's internal systems began to fail, lights dimming, gravity fluctuating. One wall melted like wax, revealing a hidden corridor filled with dormant stasis pods, each one holding a figure, each one Aetheron. Dozens of him, some older, some younger, some deformed, mutated, broken, all failed iterations. Clones, echoes, number versions? "This isn't my first awakening," he whispered. "It's just the one that worked." Ilara covered her mouth. "You're not unique." "Number I'm stable." Suddenly the shard pulsed again, but this time it reached out. It sent a signal through Aetheron. He felt it burn through every memory, every cell, every part of him that still remembered what it meant to be only human. The signal shot down to Earth, to Mira, to Lucian, to the others, and to something deeper, older, something buried in Earth's crust. A monolith beneath Antarctica began to glow. Forgotten satellites blinked back to life. Data from ancient Voyager probes changed course, transmitting coordinates no one had programmed. This wasn't activation, it was alignment. The transmission was rewriting not just people, but history itself. Aetheron dropped to his knees, his body smoking from within. Elara caught him. "What did it show you?" she whispered. He looked up, eyes glowing white, tears of light streaking his cheeks. "A heaven we were never supposed to remember." And outside, the corrupted vessel grew larger, descending toward the station. The thing inside it was awake, and it remembered Aetheron too. The sky above Earth wasn't real anymore, at least not in the way it used to be. As the corrupted cathedral ship edged closer, it sent signals not to the space station, but to the sky itself. Frequencies older than human memory, code written before language. And Earth's sky, ever so loyal, began to respond. Clouds fractured into rigid, unnatural patterns. Lightning danced without thunder. And then, across every time zone, the stars vanished. Not covered, gone, wiped. As if someone had pressed delete on the night sky. In the station, Aetheron stood shakily as Elara braced him. His body still smoked faintly, his veins glowing like fiber-optic cables. Whatever had passed through him had left a mark, deeper than DNA, more permanent than memory. He was no longer just human. The shard now hovered mid-air, trembling. It was afraid. And that's when the station spoke, not with words, but with presence, like a parent stepping in when danger arrives. Across the floor, a panel shifted. A hidden chamber opened. Inside, a pedestal rose, holding something wrapped in silver-threaded cloth. Aetheron approached, slowly peeling back the covering. What he saw made no sense. A mirror, but it didn't reflect the room. It reflected possibility. His face, but older, wiser, wounded, scarred. His hands held a blade of memory. It pulsed with echoes from 100 failed timelines. He reached forward. The shard followed, hovering above the mirror, syncing with it. And then, fusion. The mirror cracked. The shard dissolved into filaments and poured into the cracks. And the mirror became alive, projecting a holographic stream of symbols and ancient mathematical constants. The interface activated what the station had hidden from all but its chosen host, the Codex of Forgotten Skies. It revealed the truth. The corrupted cathedral ship was a remnant of the first collapse, an ancient war between two factions of post-human beings, those who evolved through unity with the code, and those who twisted it for control. Aetheron's awakening had triggered both sides, but he was a variable never accounted for, a wild code. Elara absorbed every word, translating, decoding faster than ever before. You weren't created, Aetheron. You were salvaged from the dying timeline, one of the last sparks of free will they couldn't suppress. Aetheron trembled. I've been rebooted how many times? Thousands, Elara said, but this is the first time you synced with the shard and survived. Suddenly, alarms, real ones, echoed across the station. The corrupted ship was in orbit now, deploying tendrils of metallic data structures that looked like spiderwebs made of steel and static. They were latching onto satellites, rewriting code mid-broadcast. Earth's internet, its cloud, its global AI networks, they began changing tone. Voices warped, languages shifted. It wasn't malware, it was theology. a new belief system coded and deployed into every device on Earth. A viral faith. Aetheron grabbed Ilara's hand. "We're out of time." "Then we upload the counterseed," she said. She slid open her neural port and motioned for him. He hesitated. "You sure?" "I built this place for you. This is what I was for." Aetheron placed his fingers against the port, and a stream of radiant code flowed into her. She screamed, but not from pain, from remembering. Ilara had once been human, but long ago she volunteered to become more. She lived in the code now, her body just a temporary shell. And now, with the counterseed inside her, she became the anchor. With a roar of energy, the station unfolded, literally reconfiguring its own geometry. Defensive systems emerged, mirrors turned into weapons, antennas bloomed like metallic flowers, and then it transmitted, the real frequency. Across Earth, the sky began to bleed light, not red, not blue, but something that felt like remembering your mother's voice in a dream. Children around the world looked up and began to cry, not in fear, but in recognition. Something inside them said, "I know this place." The corrupted cathedral ship shuddered, almost as if in rage. Tendrils recoiled. But then it sent one final signal. To Aetheron, just a sound, a tone, a question, or maybe a name, his real name. He collapsed. Images tore through him, memories of a life before Earth, of a world that no longer exists, of a family that burned when the first Code War erupted. He remembered the sky having a name. He remembered what it cost to forget. When Aetheron awoke, Ilara was kneeling over him, tears on her face. "It called you Orion." He blinked. Not his name, his designation. Orion, Oniric Reconstructor of Integrated Origins and Networks. Aetheron was not just human. He was a restoration protocol, a failsafe, designed not to fight the collapse, but to rewrite the aftermath. The corrupted ship began to retreat, folding back into whatever dimension it came from, but not in defeat, in delay. This was only round one. Aetheron stood. "I remember now," he said. Ilara nodded. "Then it's begun." Above them, the sky remained empty, starless, but far beyond that darkness, something stirred.